No one has been prosecuted under that, not just Trump, none of the 1,200 people who've been indicted in connection with the Capitol riot. So I think what the court can say is there has to be a procedure where a court gets involved and a person accused of this gets due process.
All right, my friends, get ready to free your mind because it's showtime. J.R. Dukes at your service. Appreciate you joining me today. I'm here to help provide commentary so you can live your best life possible, because when you understand better, you can live better. Folks, we are in the middle of this election cycle. I should say we're actually at the beginning, but in the middle of the Donald Trump saga going on right now as far as the ballots are concerned in the state of Colorado and in the state of Maine. Currently, as of the recording of this video right now today, we are waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to hopefully pick up the appeal Donald Trump has filed in the state of Colorado and in the state of Maine. It's critical that the Supreme Court act now, act decisively, and at a minimum, freeze, stay, stop the governments, the states, from going forward as far as removing his name off the ballot. And we're going to talk about that right now. I have a great video right now for us to review together, so let's get right into it. Here we go.
And former Assistant U.S. Attorney Andy McCarthy, a Fox News contributor. Andy, always good to see you. Happy New Year to you. Haven't seen you since we are in 2024, so good to have you with us. What do you make of this? We talked to Alina Habba, one of President Trump's attorneys, yesterday. She said it was imminent, and indeed it happened right after our program. They are appealing to the Supreme Court. What does the court do now?
Well, I think they have to take the case, Martha, and I say that understanding that they are very reluctant to wade into the politics of the 2024 election. But you will truly have chaos and maybe two layers of chaos if this case isn't grappled with soon by the one court that can sort of put an end to all the questions. And when I say two layers, what I mean is there's litigation that's pending now that mainly goes to whether former President Trump can be on the ballot in connection with the primaries. They're holding their powder dry for a second round, if this is still a pending issue, that even if he can get on the ballot for the primaries, there'll be a slew of lawsuits about whether he can be on the ballot for the November election.
Yeah, my friends, if this was a movie, we would probably have to call this a series of unfortunate events, because this individual is absolutely correct. They are going to beat this to death all year long up and until the election, if not after the election, because what the Democrats are trying to do is put anything and everything in the way, make it an obstacle for Donald Trump to even get on the ballot, for people to have the opportunity to even vote on this case. So what he's saying here is, A, they're trying to keep him off the ballot to begin with, and then B, if he is allowed on the ballot, they're going to start filing cases against him that in the event he wins, that he's not eligible to be seated or sworn in as the next president of the United States. They are so scared of Donald Trump. They will not let you or me vote for this man if they have their choice. Joe Biden is right about one thing. We are fighting for the soul of our country. But we're on the correct side of this. The soul Joe Biden and the Democrats and these liberal woke people want is to fundamentally change our life. They want us all living the great European dream, the great California dream, and we don't want nothing to do with that. They want to tell you how to live your life, how to raise your kids. They want to spend all your money. They want us to become socialistic, plain and simple. No other way to slice it up. And they're directly lying to us all. Hence the reason why I am always talking, having a conversation with you, because indoctrination is a real thing. And we have to shed light on this so that the sunshine can disinfect this nonsense that's going on right now. So let's continue with this video.
So if you have that, I think currently there's about 33 states where there's some degree of litigation on this issue already. Multiply that by 2 if it really is going to be 2 layers. And then you have 50 states making ad hoc rules about what procedures have to be applied before someone can be found guilty or this disqualification can attach to him under the 14th Amendment. You're going to have true chaos in the run up to the election.
So what do you think the court does under the Chief Justice Roberts? I know Jonathan Turley wrote a piece the other day.
I want to briefly interject and say, again, he's pointing out that if the Supreme Court does not step in and do what is right and put a stop to this case, to strike it down, or at a minimum issue a stay in this case, you're going to have chaos all over the United States. You've got 50 states that can basically do 50 different things if they choose to, because this 14th Amendment has never been tested by the U.S. Supreme Court. There is no standard to which Donald Trump is being held to. It basically is whatever the particular body of each particular state decides they want to do. Remember, Donald Trump has had no due process. He has not been charged with insurrection. He has not been convicted of insurrection. Even goofy Jack Smith, the special prosecutor, he did not even charge Donald Trump with insurrection. Why? Because it cannot be proven. Donald Trump did not engage in insurrection. You know that. I know that. The woke liberals will call you a denier, an election denier, if you talk like that. Well, I'm talking like that. You are not an election denier. We know that there was all kinds of crazy stuff that happened during that last election, and you can call me what you want. You can call me a January 6th denier, climate change denier. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I am here to help you, the people that actually need the correct information. I'm here to help you make a good decision. What these left people think of me, I don't care. It just frankly doesn't interfere with my mind, with my thought process. I sleep very well at night. And hopefully by joining my channel, by joining the conversation with me, you, my friend, can also sleep better, because you will understand how things work better as we go through this process hand in hand.
Where he said Roberts would probably want to see the court act in a unanimous way on this. Do you think that's likely? And do you think that they do make a decision that will be blanket across the country, that this doesn't fly and this is done?
Well, I'd like to see a unanimous decision too. I'd probably be surprised by one, but I can see a path to the court maybe deciding this in a way that picks up at least one or two of the three progressive judges and has like an overwhelming majority. And that is what I think, Martha, that they don't want to get into is the nitty gritty of, was there an insurrection? Did Trump incite an insurrection? Did he engage in an insurrection for purposes of the 14th Amendment? And I think the way that you get around that is simply to say that there's law for the proposition that this provision of the 14th Amendment is not, as they say, self-executing.
That's exactly right. I hate to keep interrupting, but this just makes my blood boil when I hear all this nonsense they try to throw at this man. And this guy, this attorney, this Andrew guy, he is pretty well spot on. First of all, most of the mainstream media is saying that the Supreme Court is not going to rule in Donald Trump's favor, or on the other side, they expect a unanimous 9-0 ruling. Personally, I don't think that's going to happen. So you can put me on the record right now. We'll just see how my prediction goes. There's no way the U.S. Supreme Court, even though they should immediately take up this case, dismiss it, squash it, hold it, whatever, they're not going to do that. There are some very liberal individuals, especially the newest member, that Jackson Brown, whatever her name is, you can put in the comments below if I quoted the name wrong. But at any rate, she and maybe one or two others are definitely not going to rule in Donald Trump's favor. I would like to see a 9-0 ruling, but I don't see that happening. Now, what he's going to talk about here is exactly what are the different off-ramps, if you will, that the U.S. Supreme Court could take to rule in Donald Trump's favor without having to directly answer the question whether or not Donald Trump committed an insurrection. Again, there's many off-ramps. We'll just have to see which way they decide to go.
Which means, like a number of other things under the 14th Amendment, in Section 5, Congress is given authority to enact legislation to enforce the provisions of the 14th Amendment. No one has been prosecuted under that, not just Trump, none of the 1,200 people who've been indicted in connection with the Capitol riot. So I think what the court can say is there has to be a procedure where a court gets involved and a person accused of this gets due process. To my mind, it should be, if you're going to accuse someone of insurrection, it should be a high level of due process, like guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, where you have all the protections of a criminal trial. But I think I could easily see the court doing that, and then they don't have to rule on the merits of whether there was insurrection and all that stuff.
Indeed.
Well, he is, once again, speaking the same type of language I would speak as far as this subject is concerned. They probably do not want to address directly whether or not Donald Trump engaged in insurrection. And folks, I want you to understand this. There is no legal definition of insurrection under the law. I know that may come as a surprise to you, but there is not any law that says an insurrection is this, and this is how you determine if it's an insurrection. It does not exist. And if you believe it exists, go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'll look it up and I'll get back to you on it. Having with that understanding in mind that there is not a definition as to what an insurrection is, it's really difficult to convict someone of insurrection or even to accuse them of insurrection when there is not a standard. There's not a process. And remember this is the key takeaway here. Under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, this is what they're trying to stick Donald Trump in the heart with when you get right down to it. The other section under the 14th Amendment, Section 5, clearly states that Congress and only Congress can come up with rules and or procedures as to how this process is to work out as far as removing someone from office. That also touches on another subject. The 14th Amendment does not say you cannot run for office. The 14th Amendment says you shall not be seated. You shall not be allowed to hold that office. So that's yet another argument that the Supreme Court could find a way to rule in Donald Trump's favor. In other words, you can run, but you may not be seated if indeed you are an insurrectionist under that particular statute. But remember, Congress has never came up with the rules, and only Congress has the authority under the 14th Amendment to come up with the rules and decide. For example, do you actually have to have a conviction in order to be an insurrectionist? Or is there some tribunal that's going to decide that? Or is it only Congress that decides that? And what is the standard? What is the proof? Imagine in our country, we now live in a time where we have Democrats, these woke individuals, trying to take away someone's freedom, someone's money, someone's ability to run for office without due process, meaning Donald Trump has never been to court on this particular matter. He's never had witnesses brought against him. He's never had the opportunity to cross-examine said witnesses to decide as to whether or not he's guilty of insurrection. This is just wrong. This is America. And you know, these woke Democrats, they love to tell you Donald Trump is not above the law. And that is true. But let me tell you something else. Donald Trump is not below the law either. He has the same rights that you have and I have. And these woke individuals need to remember that at all times. But instead, they are hell-bent on destroying our country. And folks, we cannot allow this to happen. You have to help me help our country, to help your fellow brother and sister. Please make sure that you share this video with somebody that you think might have a closed mind so I can help you help free their mind so they can make their own choices, their own decisions, break through the indoctrination, see what is actually going on in the world. Don't believe anything coming out of Joe Biden's mouth or any of these woke Democrats because they're skewing, they're lying, they're not telling you the truth, and they sure are not giving you the whole truth. So I want you to remember that today, and we'll continue keeping in touch and see exactly how all this turns out. If you haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up button, like, subscribe. That way you get notified as my next video and things come out. Hey, I appreciate you joining me today. As I always say, keep that mind free and never give up. Until next time, my friend, I am J.R. Dukes.